Hello, Akira here, and welcome back to the channel. Last week, I said in the video description of Zero Strength for Lin Mode that if the video got 100 likes, then I would give a shot to the main game of FE7. Well, 100 likes may have been a little low for how painful this is going to be, but we hit it, so it shall be attempted. Moving into the main game means there are now additional things to consider. Firstly, support bonuses are now on the table. As with the typical high value placed on fire and low value placed on ice affinities though, not all of the 7 affinities are made equal. Given the fact that none of our units have any starting attack, and can never naturally grow any without the Aether's drops, plus attack affinities are obviously valued the most highly. These affinities comprise 4 of the available 7, fire, anima, light, and wind. Since each support level gives half a point of attack for these affinities for each unit involved, this means that double attack supports are valued most highly, with some potential use cases for single attack supports. No attack supports I don't really value, but they could be nice for some reliability or bulk, I guess, since it's not like ice, thunder, or dark affinity units are going to be in particularly high demand as support partners anyway. We will be seeing high support levels early though, since I've altered the ROM to dramatically speed up support gains for everyone. This is because spamming end turn is not interesting to me. Additionally, should we get far enough into the game, we will be able to get the Filler's Might, one of Ninil's rings. I don't think of these things as being particularly impactful in vanilla play, but in this circumstance especially, a stat buff that gives plus 10 attack is huge. So should we get there, we have to make sure to get it from the Namata Desert. The combination of plus attack support and the Filler's Might means that we actually have several different ways of damaging and therefore beating the Fire Dragon should we get there, even with only unaltered double effective weaponry. So if you have any ideas, please do feel free to comment below. However, that is late game. Something I'm unsure about is if we can even beat the early game of FE7 with no strength, since I presently plan on doing so as an Iron Man, and even if this changes, I have negative intentions of manipulating the RNG. Hence the title of this video. Can you even beat the first chapter of Hector Hard Mode with 0 strength? In the starting cutscene, Matthew says that he is not the strongest sword arm around. Which is true, as he has 0 strength. Still, as a thief, this is basically irrelevant, as the stat that really matters for him is his speed, for stealing key items off of enemies. It is nice though that he does have the wind affinity, meaning that he can provide additional damage boosting utility. This is the point at which I realised that, since he joins in Lin Mode, it is possible that I should have actually trained him a bit before, if only to increase his bulk and therefore survivability for this and a couple of other chapters. A brand new unit we have not from Lin Mode is our Lord, Hector, who has 0 strength, despite what his personality would suggest. At the very least, Hector uses axes, which is nice because of their high might. In particular, the Wolf Bale is sure to be handy, as even in only double effectiveness, a 20 might weapon against cavalry and armors is going to be very helpful for dispatching them, especially the latter. Even better, you'll frequently have weapon triangle advantage against them, thus bringing the effective might up to 22. Sadly, he doesn't start with an iron axe in his inventory, which as per a 50-50 weighting of YouTube and Discord vote, would be infinite durability. So it looks like we're going to have to use the Wolf Bale against some scrubs. While it would be nice to conserve durability on the Wolf Bale, I don't think that we get to be picky. The biggest issue that we face right now is that we have no starting vulneraries between our 2 units, and thus have not only limited kill power, but also limited durability. Matthew gets 2-shot by every enemy here, and Hector's base 8 defense isn't enough to avoid him getting chunked by the enemies, especially since he has a pitiful 19 base HP. In vanilla, on turn 1, you would be able to break down the wall directly to the left of spawn. Obviously, here, where we have no base attack, this is not a possibility, with it only being doable on turn 2, after both Matthew and Hector use their actions to break it. Already, this is not great. Matthew is in immediate danger and is very squishy, so if the archer moves first and shoots him, I mildly doubt we have the actions available to keep him alive. Which we should. He's a really important unit, being responsible for stealing a host of very important items, including vulneraries for this map. Fortunately, GBA follows a set enemy turn order, and the soldier moves first, meaning the archer moves forward and attacks Hector with the hand axe equipped. This is mostly meaningful because it means that on the next turn, Matthew, undamaged, is able to steal the vulnerary off of the archer. The battle forecast for Hector is doubly dire between the only 2 damage and abysmal 57 hit. Yeah, we're gonna have to be using the Wolf Bale on things for both damage and accuracy for sanity purposes. Across the course of the next several turns, Hector eventually dispatches both the archer and the soldier. Of course, the enemy thief steals the red gem during this time. Still, not all hope is lost for being able to reclaim this source of needed gold. Thieves have a bizarre compulsion to open up all the doors they possibly can, so he will spend the next several turns on the map. This does mean that he gets Hector with vulnerary swarmed by the enemies to the south of spawn, but it's fine, I think. Probably. While Hector is preoccupied, the thief does eventually loop back around to the rightmost door by his despawn point, so Matthew just steals both the red gem and the lockpick off of him. It turns out that the thief has rolled down on speed and thus cannot steal them back, and so rather than having the steal loop occur, he just tries to shank Matthew, who does not have a vulnerary on his person. This is a 1v1 that Matthew will not win. Luckily, by this point, Hector has dispatched all but one of his enemies, with the archer having moved into a convenient location, so we're able to archer box him in while Hector eventually kills the thief. Now that all of the charging enemies are gone, this removes a lot of the pressure from the map. As a couple of remaining funny moments, I originally lure the vulnerary holding knight, with Hector wielding the hand axe, with the intent of not killing him with the Wolf Bale. This ends up with me inadvertently using up 2 use of the hand axe for naught, since they do no damage to the knight, and Hector can't one-round the knight even with the effective damage from the Wolf Bale without a crit anyway. After Hector misses his Wolf Bale attack on the boss, Wire, which is a 90 in 2 RN, I decide to just fold and activate Hector and Matthew's C support, despite Hector having a sad Thunder affinity, for a tiny bit of extra hit. This is worth it for comedic purposes though, since in this support conversation Matthew says that Hector is strong twice, which is demonstrably untrue his 0 strength. At any rate, after 39 very painful turns, and 15 out of 20 uses of the hand axe and 24 out of 30 of the Wolf Bale expended, we finally kill Wire and end the map. On a positive note, at least Hector has been leveling non-strength stats nicely, having gotten 3 points of defense and 3 points of speed across 5 levels. So, that's something. So the map ends up being possible after all. Albeit with more uses of the Wolf Bale than I'd like, but yes, you can beat the first chapter of Hector Hard Mode with 0 strength, without having to do any RNG manipulation. I am not gonna lie, I was not expecting it to be reasonable, and nor did a number of my friends. Hector can eventually get bulky, but his starting bulk on this map is pretty poor, and well, your only other unit is Matthew. While they're very easy to use units and will be invaluable in this run for their bulk, Marcus and Oswin haven't entered stage left quite yet. And this map can be tricky. Hector's hit rates are clearly not good, and the lack of starting healing items severely limits the number of combats you're able to safely see. That being said, all's well that ends well, so I guess we will end up attempting Hector Hard Mode for the challenge after all. It seems interesting, and I'm looking forward to it, despite it being FE7. So if you're interested in the state of this run, and aren't already, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. Still, I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to stream attempts of this properly. I already have 2 weekly streams running, and between those, trying to do a weekly Sunday video, and additional channel content, and also vaguely trying to maintain other areas of my life, I'm feeling pretty stretched thin, and can't commit to a weekly slot for this. So any streams in the near future, before either of my ongoing stream playthroughs wrap, will have to be ad hoc. That being said, there will still be less formal streams happening in the community Discord, so if you're interested in any of those, keeping up to date with future projects, or just chatting Fire Emblem, we would love to have you. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Until then, have a good one.